Hello, listeners. It's Mark here, and I'm with Tim G, and we're going to talk to you about the upcoming League One season. Are you ready to preview League One, Tim?
Yes, looking forward to Betfred League One this year.
Excellent. Well, you're the perfect person from the sort of usual panel of us hosts to have on for this because you're very connected to League One with your role as the master of ceremonies down at the Big Butt. So
makes it sound like DJ Pied Piper.
Yeah, pretty much. Is that not what you do?
No? It does. But it's it's just thought I'd throw in a UK garage reference because there just aren't enough these days. Not that I was ever really into it, but it was
Alicia
around.
Dixon, was she in the garage scene?
She was in the So Solid crew, wasn't she?
Was Mystique? Were they not? Were they garage? I don't know.
Don't think so.
The So Solid crew were probably garage.
Yeah.
No. We digress in areas that I clearly have no knowledge or expertise, and that's quite fitting too, because League One isn't my expert area, so we're probably going to lean on your knowledge, because all the teams that are in League One last year were in League One. Sorry, all the teams in League One this year were also in League One last year.
Yeah.
Which means that you'll have some knowledge of these teams, but obviously there's been a lot of squad turnover, so we'll get to that as we go along. I think what we should do first, Tim, is recap the predictions we made on our predictions show that we did a few weeks ago. Me, you, Sarah, and Alan all did that one together, along with what the listeners were expecting to happen from League One. So when we did the season preview and predictions form, we asked people to vote for who they think would get promoted from League One, and obviously two teams get promoted from League One. So the voting went as such. Workington were the favourites to go up amongst our voting public with 50% of the votes. Newcastle got 47, Doncaster got 46, so those three clearly the favourites for going up. Oldham had 29% of the vote and Whitehaven 20% of the vote. The only other team that received any votes for getting promoted this year were Hunslet. They got 8% of the votes cast. So how did you go personally? Just remind the listeners.
Yeah, so I went for Newcastle along with the 47%, mainly because I just think that the quality they've brought into their squad is such that it's going to be a task for them not to get promoted. If you just look at their back line alone, you've got Lewis Young staying at fullback amid some Super League and Championship interest that coming for him. So I think that's big that they retained him. You got Mo Agoro on one wing. Then you got Remy Marganet and Liam Finn in the halves.
Yeah, internationals, the both of them.
Yeah, exactly. All international. And then you've got Jaimel Coleman as the backup half. Obviously, vastly experienced in League One in Scholars.
Yeah, he kind of sort of flits between the northernmost side and the southernmost side of the division.
And you've got Kieran Gills there as well, and they've just signed well. They've strengthened. Their pack's pretty good as well. Jack Aldous, Harry Aldous, Keel Carlilly as well.
Carlilly. I think we pronounce it Keel Carlisle, don't we?
Well, it's not spelt like Carlisle, though, is it?
No, it's not. But it's Keel Carlisle, probably most famous for his time at Featherstone, but he's had spells in Super League when he first started at Hull KR, didn't he? Yeah.
Well, I'll ask him in 2 weeks. See what he says. See how he pronounces it. But there's a lot of quality in that squad. They've bolstered their coaching ranks as well. Newcastle. They brought in Tim Rumford, former Oxford coach, to beef up the coaching as well. So, who's an experienced League One head coach in his own right. So they've got some firepower, and they're clearly looking at the structure and going that we could do this. So I think it's hard to see past them, really.
Yeah, and so Newcastle is one of your two teams. I've gone Newcastle as well. You've kind of covered the main touch points there for why, and I think the signings they've brought in people from the Championship, so it might be people who are coming towards the end of their career like Missy Talapapa, or people from the Super League like Liam Finn, but most of the people they brought in are from the division above, who were playing at places in the Championship last year. So you got to say that they've no doubt strengthened and are the big spenders in the division, which, if we've seen anything over the last few years, the big spenders tend to be the ones who go up.
It does tend to be weighted by pounds, shillings and pence, yeah.
So who's the second side that you picked?
I went, at the time, when we did the voting, I went for Doncaster.
Okay.
Looking at their squad, and they've retained quite well. They have got one of the smaller squads, because obviously they do rely quite heavily on their dual registration partners, which is interesting because there will be a Hull FC injury crisis.
There already is.
if we're not already in one. So that will massively affect their chances. But I think they're just the way they've performed as a unit the last couple of years, they've done quite well. I thought at the time they were possibly bringing in a few more bodies to try and strengthen up that squad, but looking at it on paper, it still seems relatively light compared to the other teams around them. I'm sort of now I'm looking at starting to lean back the other way towards Oldham.
Okay.
Would possibly where I go. So if you look at some of the players they brought in, Aaron Jones-Bishop, hugely experienced at this level, and really electric winger. Zach McCom in the centres does very well. Quite a decent pack all round. They've got a few names that sort of pick out there. Adam Brooke, another one that is quite exciting to watch potentially.
Yeah, Danny Bridge and Ben Davies are players who came through at Super League level originally. Lee Kershaw, they've had on dual reg a bit from Wakefield, haven't they? And that's
Gareth Owen playing at hooker, very experienced again.
Yeah.
So I think they've got quite a mix. And Oldham last year were probably the best performers I saw down at the Butts Park Arena, sort of that gave the most complete performance, and they gave absolutely nothing to Coventry, and they just looked a very drilled unit. So if they can keep that, and they've retained a fair bit of their squad, so if they can keep that way, and don't forget that Whitebank is a horrible place to go as an away team. It's a horrible place to go as a home fan, I imagine, as well. But it's a horrible place to go. It's cold showers and the like. Still don't know if they fixed that. So you're switching
I doubt it. Your pre-season now. Well,
I'm now
earlier in the pre-season.
Sort of leaning. Yeah, I'm probably leaning more towards Oldham.
So I went with my second team along with Newcastle as being Workington, and actually I feel like that selection has been almost reinforced. Although they're operating with one of the smallest squads, they've definitely got one of the most experienced squads in this division, and then I think they're working, kind of like Whitehaven are too, working on bringing in younger players from around the area as well when things get problematic, injury-wise or what have you. But they've just brought in Sam Hopkins, haven't they, who was at Lee for a number of years, played at Toronto last year in the Championship, briefly got signed by Wigan but never really made the grade there. But you look through like their side and they've got some outstanding outside backs. I think Tyler Mellor was very good for them last year when he joined on dual reg from Huddersfield. Ryan Fieldhouse is a slippery character at that level, but it's really the experience in the halves and the pack. Jamie Doran and Carl Forber have played together for a number of years now, and then Wilkes, Penkovic, Tickle. There's some. As long as they can stay fit,
Carl Alstrom as well.
You've got to think at this level with the amount of games that they won't have to play. In reality, it's not a chocker fixture list, is it? In League One, you've got to think that there's a good chance of them staying fit, and young Kane Barnes as well that they've got in from Wigan, who's a big young forward. So I think there's opportunities there. Maybe squad depth is something that Leon Price is going to have to work on, but he's got another year of experience behind him. His first year of being a head coach last year was pretty successful, getting right to the end of that process, really, into the new promotion game that was invented right at the end when Swinton beat
he'd already booked his holiday. Yeah,
when Swinton beat them narrowly at Hayward Road. So I think Workington are my second team now. So I'm going to stick with that. The Sam Hopkins signing has made me feel like sticking with that. So Alan, when he went, when we did the prediction show earlier on in the pre-season, went Workington and Newcastle, and Sarah went Doncaster and Newcastle. So we all think Newcastle, and we kind of split a little bit then around the rest. So I don't know why I've copied and pasted in that wording that we're going to talk about more in the League One preview, Tim? Because that's what we're doing now.
Yeah, that's a very good question.
We had some fan views in.
We did.
We'll touch on those first. So when we did the form and we asked people to put on the form their expectations for their side during the 2019 season, a couple of League One fans got in touch and added their thoughts in. So Mark Dixon, who's a Coventry Bears fan, so I assume you know Mark. There's not many
I'm not familiar with Mark, actually.
Well, Mark will have to say hello to you, won't he?
Yeah.
He expects Coventry to be bumping along the bottom. We'll talk more about Coventry in a minute, but that's a probably slightly more pessimistic prediction than I think the general feeling around the club. Is that fair to say?
I'd say so. I'd say, if anything, I think it's going to be an improved group. If you look at the squad and where it's come from, as well as having that Midlands base, we've got a very, brought in a spine this year, which is very much improving. If you look at the players we brought in, particularly sort of in that middle, I think that's going to improve greatly. And I think all that Midlands base that's there have got another year's experience, so they're going to all be better players, the ones that have been retained and have stayed. So I think if it will be an improved performance, I think it will be another few shocks will be in the office.
Ah, right, okay. Mark Butler got in touch. He's a Widnes fan and also more regularly
He's
attending.
Local to North Wales, yeah.
North Wales fan. So what did he have to say about their
Probably more of the same. The odd surprise win, but not enough to get in the promotion mix. Tend to agree with that.
That seems fair enough. When we gave the call out last week for people to get in touch with their views on League One ahead of this show, Dave Cantrell, who basically supports everything London Rugby League, he's got in touch about what he thinks is going to happen from the Scholars. So do you want to tell us, Tim, what he had to say?
Yeah, so despite our performance last year, I'm quite upbeat about the Scholars this season. Perhaps I'm still on a high from the Broncos stuffing Wakey, but I think I've got reason to be optimistic. The squad hasn't changed much, so there's continuity. It's just been bolstered with a sprinkling of new signings, as well as a few additions coming from the junior ranks. We were hampered by injury last year, so the larger squad should help. Outside the first team squad and behind the scenes, things are being done right. The club is still working hard to find young local men who want to play, including the partnership with Haringey Sixth Form College. And according to the press release, the recent investment from the Wolfpack is going to be used primarily for community support and marketing, including picking the Wolfpack's marketing brains. In particular, there's talks of digital rights growth, something that League One and Championship fans have been grumbling about for years. I wonder if we're going to stream matches like what Bradford did last year. Prediction 5th in the league, and then confusion due to the completely mental playoff structure.
So let's see if we've got our heads around that playoff structure. I thought it was more straightforward in League One. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it right that the team that finishes top after the regular season, they go up, and then
yes,
2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th play off in a semi-finals and then a final for the second promotion place?
That's the way I understood it. Whether that is the case is another question.
And just like last year,
and of course, whether it will be the case by the time we get there is, yeah.
Let's not put our mortgages on it, Tim. Carson Broomer got in touch as well, our friend the Swiss Cowboy. He said, here are my League One predictions. So he's detailed what he thinks the table is going to look like. He said, 1st Newcastle, 2nd Workington, 3rd Oldham, 4th Doncaster, 5th Hunslet, 6th Coventry, ahead of in 7th Whitehaven, then North Wales 8th, Keighley 9th, London Scholars are 10th, and West Wales Raiders he's got down in the basement there. He says he's made a couple of other predictions as well. So the teams he thinks will get promoted will be those top two, Newcastle and Workington. And then the first club to go into special measures during the season, he's predicted to be Whitehaven. So
we almost certainly know there'll be one, don't we?
Well, there's been...
If the last few years has taught us anything.
Yeah, there's been plenty in the off-season as well, hasn't there? I mean, one of the teams has only just got to the starting line, not being in special measures, and on a 12 points deduction, and that's the Keighley Cougars. So...
And it seems like a fantastic atmosphere has been generated as a result. From what I've seen, the people that have rallied around to save Keighley and done really well, and it's sort of brought in a few lapsed fans already to help out with things behind the scenes.